Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello, everybody. My name is Min. I'm your co-host with my other co-host, Brendon Wolf. Hello, Mr. Wolf.
Hello, Ben. How are you?
Good, thank you. Oh, I forgot to do my introduction scripts. Give me a second.
You did.
Okay, let me read it out to you. The SDA Housing Podcast is a show that explains, highlights, guides, and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Okay, I'm glad that's done. Now, Brendon, we're here today because we received an email on the weekend, and I won't mention names.
Yes.
I would like to read the email out, minus the names, and then we'll talk about the situation, okay? So give me a second here. Let me read word for word. Hi, Brendon. I hope it's okay to reach out to you through this platform. Firstly, we would like to congratulate you on achieving your SDA dream, and secondly, we would like to thank you for sharing your story in the recent podcast, episode 154. Our son is on his SDA journey. We just went through our third AAT after initially applying approximately 2 years ago. Our son falls into the group you mentioned on your podcast. He has level 3 autism and intellectual disability and has complex behaviour issues. He has been approved for SDA, robust villa duplex townhouse, 2-resident dwelling. Our concern is he needs single resident occupancy due BOC and violent outbursts. A 2-resident dwelling with one support worker would be unsafe for our son, co-tenant and staff. We do have SDA services, which is run by Greg Barry, assisting us with writing up responses, etc., and they have been a fantastic help. However, it is taking a big toll on us, and we're getting to the point of accepting the current NDIS offer. But after listening to your podcast, we are a bit more hopeful. We are thinking of getting an advocate to sit in on AAT conference meetings or a lawyer. At what stage did you engage a lawyer? Do you offer any advocacy service or can you recommend one? Are you in a position to have a frank conversation? Thank you very much for your time. Kind regards. So, Brendon, there's only one term I didn't understand in that email. BOC. What does that mean?
I'm not too sure myself. I haven't, that acronym I'm not aware of. But boy, when I read this email, I was absolutely shocked. The poor family, 3 times at AAT. Like, how can you make someone go 3 times to the administrative appeals tribunal? That's just absurd in itself. Look, I've reached out to the family involved, and we've had a couple of brief email exchanges over the past couple of days. And yeah, I feel for this family. Like, I really feel for their situation and what's happening within the family. I just feel, and this goes back to when we talk about the recent price guide changes to the SDA, the SDA price guide, and we talk about all the other categories that have had increases and decreases, and this is the one category that sadly was left out of the recent review, and that's the robust single occupancy. So I just feel for this family.
Brendon, I would like to ask you a few questions to help for myself to educate myself through asking these questions, and also to help our listeners understand the situation or the process more so with the AAT. And my question is this: they've been through 3 tribunal meetings or battles with the NDIS over 2 years. They don't have an advocate in their corner. They don't have a lawyer in their corner. But yet they're being ground. Well, the word, how lawyers are. They grind you down to you're weak and you're tired and you just want to give up. How come this family has not pulled in a lawyer or an advocate in their corner yet? Do most families think they have to go in to battle the NDIS in a court proceedings by themselves without legal representation?
Most families that when they get to the AAT point, they might not be as financially able to sustain, like, to pay for legal fees or something, the legal side of it. It comes down, it does sadly come down to a financial situation. Like, some families are just unable to pay the exorbitant amount of money that lawyers are wanting. And this is the one thing that, people with disabilities, they're not made like, they're not, I don't want to sound callous here, but they're not, a lot of them don't have a lot of money. A lot of them just rely on a disability support pension to help them get by. And I think that the NDIA it's sort of like making the poor kind of really like work even harder to fight for a basic right. I mean, this is a basic right. The family situation is quite unique, and like all they want for their son is the best. And when you're forcing these people to pay extremely exorbitant amounts of money to fight for a basic right, it is going to take one hell of a mental toll, and not just that, like 3 times. How do you make someone go to AAT 3 times? I've never heard of that. That astounds me, and that shocks me. And I feel that there needs to be some kind of system where people who can't necessarily afford to pay for these legal fees or these advocacy services, I feel that there needs to be some kind of mechanism put in place where, those participants who want to continue the fight, so they get some kind of, like a pro bono type services. And don't get me wrong, there are law firms out there that do pro bono work for NDIS. My law firm that I used with my AAT, they do a lot of NDIS AAT cases, but it's very hard to find, and unless you know what you're looking for, you kind of like a deer in the headlights. So this situation, it's very overwhelming for the family.
Brendon, are you aware of many law firms around Australia that do pro bono work for the NDIS participants at all? So
the law firm that I was with, Holding Redley, that's one. I know Morrison Blackburn. We're doing some kind of some work with them. I'm too sure of many others. That's the problem. No one knows, and unless it's kind of like unless you're in the know, you don't know, right? So it's when you've got people like Greg Barry in your corner, who is a lawyer by trade and has all these, connections, because that's how I got my through Greg Barry, unless you know someone that knows someone, that's how the world works today, unfortunately. And it's really, it's really sad and disappointing to hear situations like this where they just don't know what to do.
Well, Brendon, how can you help? How can we help with this situation?
Okay, so how can we help? So my role here at NDIS Property Australia is my title is participant lead. However, I do have a little consultancy business on the side where I do provide some advocacy support to NDIS participants, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the SDA space. It's all things NDIS. I have a little, my consultancy business. I'm giving my experience through the appeals process and trying to guide participants and their support networks around how to navigate that system and how to access that system and try and make the daunting process for them a lot more comfortable, because when I first went into AAT, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, this is just something that is like so out of my depth and my comfort zone. So and I had people like Greg Barry guiding me, but it's really important that we have lived experience people. So other participants who have gone through the process as well, like just sharing your experiences, sharing your knowledge, and that's where I come in and try and make it a little bit easier for participants to assist, try to make it easy to assist participants with this space.
Gotcha. So my guess at the moment is this family who is in the AAT process, they would have one parent at home, one parent working, going back and forth with allied health professionals to do reports, psychologists, OTs, doctors, psychiatry, all those different kind of professionals providing written support and documentations for this family to use in their presentation of their fight with the NDIS for the right funding. Now, obviously, they said they're feeling like they want to just accept the shared model, the shared provision of care, but that, as the parent says, is too dangerous for their child. Is there a chance that if they accepted this proposal to be 2-to-1 care, is there ever a chance for them to go back to the AAT again, or the new independent panel in the future to review the decision again? Is it possible, or once they accept this decision, if they accepted it now, it's final? What's the situation there, Brendon?
Well, I don't understand why they even like 3 times. Like how do you get to that point where you've got to be there 3 times? Look, I guess their option is if they go to AAT again and they don't get the outcome that they're looking for, they have the option of doing the High Court of Australia. That is the last resort. And what that is a panel of judges that review what the tribunal has set out. But that is a very costly exercise, and the High Court of Australia only meets so many times a year, and it just depends on what their caseload is too. I feel that this family will probably end up, if we can't find a solution to their problem, I feel that they will just accept the offer, and the risks that come with that is likely that the other participant that they're going to be living with could get harmed. There's a risk of safety. So yeah, their last option is they can either go to the High Court, which is a costly exercise. The High Court will only sit so many times a year, and it depends on their caseloads as well. I have a feeling that they will end up just accepting the offer that has been given to them by the NDIA unless a solution can't be provided for them. And the risk of that is that the participant could be harming themselves or the other participant and the support workers that are working with them, because this participant has behavioral issues. And I just feel like there is a lot more risk if they accept the offer versus reward to everyone involved. And a lot of families, don't want to see loved ones being hurt or anything like that. So I think that we need to, that's what we need to do. We need to try to help this family as much as we possibly can.
Brendon, I'm going to go on a limb here and just use a bit of common sense to try and clear through this information. And my opinion is this, and again, I'm just throwing it out there, just as in, if I was in their shoes, a parent, right? 3 AAT journey, the journey of visiting the ATDT 3 times over 2 years, 24 months is basically 8 months per trip. Preparation, mediation, court, and then outcome. So we're assuming 8 months per session here, per trip. So the question here is, does the family have enough energy to go through another 8-month ordeal? That's number one. Number two is, do they have enough funds, money, to go to court again? Because by doing that, the father or the parent or parents have to take time off work to go to court all the time, and maybe even seek legal representation. So this is the 4th time. It's all in or nothing. And if I was in their shoes, I'd find a way to find money to seek representation or an advocate in their corner. Number 3, is there a way where anyone listening on this podcast out there in the world of NDIS would like to contribute their time and expertise to help out this family? And if so, reach out to Brendon.
I guess the real question here that we need to be asking, like you said, like, has the family got enough stamina to, go through another process? And the question that I would ask that is, how much fight would you have for your child? At the end of the day, you're a parent who just wants the best for your child, and you would do absolutely anything for your children. So I would say that this family, deep down in their heart of hearts, would just fight to the tooth and nail. But again, do we really want to be putting this family through this horrible process? You said 2 rounds of 8 months, like 2 years. So my case was 3 years, and I barely struggled after 12 months. So I cannot even begin to imagine the amount of mental anguish this family has gone through 3 times, and they're about to do it for the 4th. Like you have to ask yourself, what is going on with this system that is the NDIS, that's supposed to be making it better and improving it for participants, not making it harder. And you talked about,
Brendon, it's simple. It's an insurance scheme, the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The fundamentals of any insurance company is to deny payments. That's what insurance companies do. So the NDIS, the commission, wants to rein in their costs. And the robust category is simply the most, yes, it's underrepresented in the marketplace, true, but it's also one of the expensive categories, and hence the reason why they did not make many changes to the recent price guide in July 1, because to have someone living on their own in a robust dwelling, plus 24/7 care, 1 or 2 carers at a time, is a very expensive cost to the NDIS. It's an insurance scheme, which means, yeah, you go.
But you know what? We've heard this argument with HPS, with single occupancy. Exactly the same thing. they've just changed the narrative here. They've just left one category. They've stopped picking on the single occupancy in apartments, and now they're like, oh, let's pick on the robust category. Like, why? Like, what, what have they not learned from HPS? Like, honestly, like, you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. You can't start a fight with one and then all of a sudden start a fight with another just because, the costs. I'm tired of hearing the same argument over and over and over for exactly the same thing, but with a different category. It doesn't wash with me anymore, man. I am so sick and tired of hearing this value for money. It's too expensive. Stop using that line and stop going down that narrative, because at the end of the day, they just gave up with HPS.
Yes, I totally agree with every word you were saying, Brendon. Every word. And let's be honest. To move, if the NDIA right now, the actuaries are sitting with us right now, and the word actuary means statisticians and researchers in a corporate environment. We're talking about 2-to-1 care, which is probably 60 or so grand a year in income for SDA income for the landlord, versus probably 100 grand, right? 100 grand or so income for SDA income for a sole occupant dwelling. If there was a sole occupant house or dwelling for robust, it'd probably be about 100 grand, right? We're talking about $40,000 difference here. $40,000. That's all we're talking about here. Because when you do the numbers, and I just want to educate our listeners here, if you have a participant in a dwelling, be it a house, not that there is a robust one participant house, there isn't, but let's say there was, the care provider is charging $60 an hour or so to the NDIS. They're paying the carer probably $40 an hour. So they're making a $20 margin as a business, right? So $60 an hour times 24 hours a day times 365 days a year is about $620,000, okay, per year, payable to the care provider. I'd say that's a minimum there, Brendon, minimum. You can get robust participants with funding as high as $1.3 million per year for SIL funding, plus SDA funding, okay? So we're talking about 40 or 50 grand. And here we are in this poor family who we feel for, and we just again, like you said, we're just shocked with this story. They're going through 2 years of court battle with the lawyers, with NDIS, at the AAT, just to get choice and control. Choice and control. Now, yeah, I understand it's 40 grand a year, 40, 50 grand a year extra SDA funding took by the NDIS to the participant. Yes, I know that. And yes, I know instead of being $613,000 a year for one person, there's $613,000, $620,000 for two people. Yes, I know that. But the point being is all this money being spent by all these people in court, in this mediation tribunal process, mate, there's a lot of money being spent there already, right? And God knows, in a year or 2 years' time, if this participant were to be living in shared accommodation in robust, and the participant is harmed, other participant is harmed, and the carer is harmed, I'm sure that there's some sort of recourse that the family would say, see, we told you, NDIS, we told you this would happen, but the AAT, in its powerful, glory, said no 3 times. Okay, so we know what the right thing to do is here, and we hope that this family gets what they want and gets what they need for their child for NDIS funding and care provision. We really hope so. I mean, we only pray that they get some advocacy support and also some pro bono legal work to support them in their journey. But again, it comes down to the energy that's going to cost them to go through this negative experience one more time at the AAT. Your thoughts, Brendon?
Yeah, you're right. Like, they're effectively paying more money for legal fees. Like, the 2 years of it, like, the cost of that is probably way more than the cost of the single occupancy SDA. So, you
Brendon, what are your thoughts, Brendon?
Where do you draw the line? Like, the cost, like, they're paying way too much no money in legal fees, but yet they're willing to spend that money with lawyers, but yet they can't fund the SDA that they require. It's absurd. It really is absurd. You're talking about a lousy $40,000. I mean, sorry, I wouldn't say lousy, but you are talking about $40,000 here, and it is still it's the crux of it, really. It's 40 grand, but how much money would you be saving with not paying legal fees? Like, you've got to ask yourself, where's
logic? Where's the logic?
Exactly.
Brendon, I think we've covered enough of this topic for 29 minutes now. I think the purpose of this is we want to let people out there listening that Brendon's here to help in what he can in some way as an advocate. We'll do our best to get more understanding of this family's requirements and try and reach out to the legal fraternity if we can to see who's doing pro bono work in the NDIS sector. Brendon, you and I will do that as well. In addition, we'd like you to try and reach out to more families out there, if you can, via your social media, to get their stories about how good or how bad their journey is in the SDA and NDIS journey there. Because we, as an advocate, for you being an advocate, not me, as an advocate, you want to just lend your support in some way, some form, to let the voiceless people out there be heard via our platform here, the podcast. Just to show our listeners, who are mostly investors, by the way, a lot of providers as well on this audience here, just to see that even though that we've identified, or providers have identified participants who should be or are about to receive SDA funding, that they're doing their best to get their choice and control requirements met for SDA, so that they can live in the type of dwellings being built by investors. All right. So again, I mentioned this in the past in another podcast. It is the outcome, not the income, which is the important part here.
That's exactly right. We want positive outcomes for NDIS participants. That's the whole aim of this scheme, right? Is to improve the quality of lives with people with disabilities, and that goes hand in hand with choice and control, with who they want to live with and where they want to live. It's a no-brainer in my book, Min, and I will fight every single day that I can to ensure that NDIS participants receive the right outcomes and the right decisions that is best for them and their situation. That's the aim of my role here and my game here. Like, I love what I do, and I'm extremely passionate about fighting for the rights of people with disabilities. And we need to start. We've heard so much about bridging the gap in so many different areas, and yes, we've bridged the gap in a little bit in the disability sector, but there is still so much more work yet to do. And I think if we all band together and we all collaborate and we all have consultations, we can make it even better. We can make a good system even better. So I think we all just need to chip back in and get the job done.
Here, I totally agree, Brendon. If we all work together and change one life at a time, that makes the world a better place. Don't you agree?
Yes, I totally agree.
Wonderful. Brendon, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to interviewing again as a co-host on this SDA Housing podcast. I look forward to also seeing you in action with your one-on-one interviews for the next 2 or 3 weeks with other participants and hearing their stories, so we can publish those stories on this channel.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me again, Min.
Thank you, Brendon. And we're gonna change the world one day at a time, one participant at a time. Okay, all good.
Yep.
Bye, mate.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.